Tonight, you don't have to feel better. You only have to rest. Somewhere inside, perhaps, something still aches a thought of someone gone. A day that asked too much. A love still patiently holding on. The body knows. The heart remembers. And that remembering has a weight, softer than sorrow, quieter than words. So tonight, we won't fix anything. We won't try to be lighter than we are. We'll simply lay down among 100 small, gentle findings from science and from the patient watching of human hearts. Findings about grief and tenderness and the body's quiet genius for carrying what it loves. The lights can be low, the breath can be long, the mind can drift wherever it wants to go. If sleep arrives before the end, let it. If not, rest is enough. A heavy heart is the ancient recognition that something mattered, and tonight, the body is still listening. Quietly, kindly, the way a garden listens after rain. Grief is the body's quiet way of remembering that something mattered. Researchers studying bereavement describe grief not as a disorder of feeling, but as a natural adjustment the body makes when a significant bond changes shape. The chest holds memory in its own soft language. The breath shortens, then lengthens again. Heart rhythms gently reorganize themselves over weeks and months. This is not a sign of weakness. It is the body, ancient and attentive, honoring what once was. Nothing about this needs to be hurried, or hidden, or explained. A garden after rain, still heavy with what the sky left behind, yet already beginning to breathe. The heart is not only an organ, it is a quiet archive of every connection you have ever known. Cardiovascular scientists describe the heart as embedded in a vast web of nerves, more than 40,000 of them linking it to memory, mood, and meaning when the heart feels heavy at night. This network is at work, translating relationship into rhythm. What we call the ache of missing someone is, in part, this archive softly speaking. It is old, it is faithful, and it asks nothing more than to be heard. A garden holding its seasons in the soil layered, patient, forgetting nothing essential. The phrase, a heavy heart, is older than almost every modern language. Linguists have traced variations of this expression across Akkadian tablets, classical Chinese poetry, medieval Arabic verse, and Old English laments. For at least 4,000 years, humans have described sorrow as a weight carried in the chest. Researchers suggest this consistency is not coincidence but recognition. The body has always felt grief in the same quiet region, and language has always found it there. Like rain arriving in many lands, calling itself by different names, yet landing softly on the same earth. Studies of emotion across cultures consistently locate sadness in the chest. In a well-known series of body mapping studies, participants from different continents, Finland, Taiwan, Sweden, and beyond, independently shaded the same central region of the chest when asked where sadness lives. Researchers describe this as evidence that the heart region is the body's shared sanctuary for tender feeling. Whatever words the mind uses, the body seems to speak one language here, quietly, in every corner of the world. A garden bed recognized by every traveler, soft, familiar, the same small comfort in any land. The jaw softening now, releasing its small, quiet grip on the day. Somatic researchers often describe the jaw as one of the body's subtle holding places, a muscle group that carries composure, attention, and sometimes unspoken feeling. When the jaw loosens, a gentle ripple of ease tends to travel through the face, the throat, the shoulders. Tonight, there is nothing more to hold. The jaw, long at work, can rest like a door, left a little open. Soft earth beneath old moss loosening, deepening, settling into its own long evening. Embodied cognition research suggests that our feelings are shaped, in part, by how the body is held. Studies on posture and mood find that even slight shifts in the body's softer shoulders, a longer exhale, a gentler gaze can quietly nudge emotional states toward calm. The relationship between heart and body, researchers note, is not one way. The body listens. The body responds. The body can, in its own gentle way, help the heart recover its breath. A garden bending with the breeze, not resisting, not fighting, simply moving the way the wind asks. The body's oldest response to loss is to slow down. Psychophysiologists describe how significant emotional weight tends to quiet the pulse, lower the metabolism, and invite stillness. This slowing is not a malfunction. It is, researchers suggest, the body's ancient recovery mode, a way of gathering resources while the heart takes its time. Tonight, any slowness you feel is not failure. It is the body kindly turning toward rest. A garden entering autumn, letting go of brightness, yet still deeply, quietly alive. A heavy heart is, in its own way, proof of how deeply you are willing to care. Attachment researchers describe the depth of grief as inseparable from the depth of bond. The body does not ache for what it never held close. Whatever sits in the chest tonight is woven from countless small acts of love, conversations, moments, looks exchanged across ordinary days. The weight is not a burden. It is the soft residue of presence. A garden rich with fallen petals, heavier, yes, but more fragrant than any garden that never bloomed. The vagus nerve is a long, wandering thread that links the heart to nearly every part of the body. Anatomists describe the vagus as the longest cranial nerve, touching the larynx, lungs, heart, stomach, and beyond. Researchers call it the body's great quieting pathway. When it is active, the heart slows, the breath deepens, digestion softens. Tonight, without any effort, this nerve is already at work, quietly tuning your system toward rest. A river meeting many shores unhurried, continuous, carrying stillness wherever it goes. The heart and brain are in constant, soft conversation. Neurocardiology research has found that more signals travel from the heart to the brain than the other way around. The heart, through the vagus nerve and other pathways, quietly shapes what the mind perceives, feels, and remembers. This is one reason a simple change in breath or a hand placed kindly on the chest can settle an entire mood. Slowly, from the inside out, the tide shaping the coastline patient, repeated, always reshaping what lies above it. The shoulders softening now, lowering a little further away from the ears. Researchers who study muscle tension describe the shoulders as a common holding place for attention and readiness. Lowering them, even a small amount, signals to the nervous system that the day's vigilance can ease. Nothing has to be released on purpose. The shoulders, once noticed kindly, tend to drift downward all on their own, in their own good time. A boat releasing its oars, no longer rowing, only drifting. In the long, quiet water, heart rate variability, or HRV, is a gentle measure of how adaptable your heart can be. Sleep researchers describe higher HRV as a sign the body is well rested and emotionally flexible. Slow, unhurried breathing tends to raise it. Soft company and soothing sounds tend to raise it. Tonight, you are doing something similar just by lying quietly, giving your heart more room to breathe. In its own soft rhythm, waves arriving at different intervals, a shoreline kept alive by the ocean's unhurried variety. A slow exhale is one of the body's oldest invitations to rest. Studies on breath and autonomic balance show that lengthening the exhale activates the parasympathetic branch of the nervous system. Researchers describe this as a built-in doorway, one the body knows by heart. A long, gentle breath out does not just relax the lungs. It whispers to every cell you can let go now. A tide receding softly, carrying nothing away, yet leaving the shore quieter than before. The heart responds kindly to slow, warm voices. Auditory research describes low-frequency, unhurried vocal tones as calming to the nervous system. The body reads these voices as signals of safety. Tonight, even a voice remembered from long ago, spoken gently in the mind, can soften the heart a small inner hum, kinder than any instruction. A gentle sea breeze, carrying no urgent message, only the quiet companionship of the ocean. Crying can gently reset the nervous system. Researchers note that after emotional tears, many people experience a drop in heart rate, softer breathing, and a feeling of emptied-out calm. Scientists call this the parasympathetic rebound. It suggests that letting feeling move, rather than holding it tight, may be one of the body's oldest ways of coming home to itself. A small stream quietly reaching the sea, no longer rushing, only merging, softly dissolving the weight it carried. The lungs and heart are neighbors, and they often move in quiet agreement. Respiratory scientists describe how each inhale slightly quickens the heart, and each exhale slightly slows it. This rhythm is called respiratory sinus arrhythmia, a gentle, healthy oscillation. Tonight, without trying, your breath and heartbeat are already weaving this soft duet. Long practiced, long trusted, waves and shoreline keeping their promise arriving. Retreating, forever rehearsing the same kind rhythm. A single long exhale can begin the body's downshift towards sleep. Sleep physiologists have documented how a deliberately long exhale can lower blood pressure, slow the heart, and soften muscle tone within a minute or two. You do not have to count, or measure, or try. Just letting the breath trail out a little longer than the breath that came in is enough for the body to notice. And to answer, a ship's sail easing down at the end of a long day, the journey done. The harbor close, the water quiet, the chest softening now, widening gently with each slow breath. Body awareness researchers describe the chest as one of the heart's most faithful listeners. When attention rests kindly there, the muscles around the ribs and collarbones tend to ease, and the breath deepens on its own. Tonight, there is nothing to push, nothing to hold in. The chest can simply be a soft, open room where the heart keeps its own quiet vigil. A candle glowing in the center of the chest, warm, small, reliably kind through the whole dark. Polyvagal theory describes the nervous system as constantly scanning for signs of safety. Stephen Porges and colleagues describe a process called neuroception, a quiet, automatic evaluation the body performs beneath awareness. When surroundings feel safe, the body moves toward calm. When they feel uncertain, it stays alert. Tonight, the soft bedding, the dim light, the familiar pillow, all of these are, in their own way, telling the nervous system you can soften. A lighthouse beam sweeping calmly across the shore, checking, finding all well, returning to stillness. The ventral vagal branch is the body's gentle gatekeeper for social calm. Polyvagal researchers describe this branch as the one that lets us feel safe with others and safe within ourselves. It softens the face, the voice, the eyes. Tonight, even in solitude, this part of you is quietly active. It remembers every kind voice, every warm hand, and it is quietly keeping you company as you settle into the night. A soft lantern at the threshold, not guarding against the dark, only welcoming what is already gentle. Warmth is one of the nervous system's oldest signals of safety. Thermoregulation researchers describe how gentle warmth in the chest, the belly, the hands signals the body that it is held, a warm blanket, a warm cup, a warm breath passing through the lips. Each is its own small message. Tonight, the warmth beneath the covers is quietly translating into softer muscles and slower breath. Without a word being spoken, a candle lit in a quiet room, not changing the dark, only softening it, simply by being there. Even imagined warmth can calm the body. Studies on mental imagery find that picturing a warm place, a warm light, or a warm hand on the chest can produce measurable drops in heart rate and blood pressure. The nervous system, it seems, does not always distinguish sharply between what is real and what is kindly imagined. Tonight, a soft, inner picture, sunlit stone, candlelight, a gentle fire is, for the body, a true kind of warmth. Moonlight resting on still water, no heat, and yet undeniably warming to the eye that receives it. A hand placed softly over the heart can gently lower arousal. Compassion researchers find that this small self-gesture, one hand resting on the chest, tends to slow the pulse, soften the breath, and signal safety to the nervous system. It is, in a sense, the body comforting itself with one of its own oldest instruments, warm touch. Tonight, if the hand finds its way there, nothing else is needed. A small flame, gently cupped by careful hands, protected, steady, warming everything close. Soft sounds at night can ease the heart towards sleep. Audiologists describe low, repetitive, low arousal sounds, rain, distant waves, soft voices as gentle cues that invite the body to downshift. These sounds seem to engage the ventral vagal branch, the body's soft gatekeeper of calm. Tonight, Even the small sounds of your own steady breath can be enough to keep this gate softly open. A candle flame breathing in a quiet room, its small sound barely noticed, yet shaping the whole evening. The hands opening gently now, fingers uncurling one at a time. Somatic researchers describe the hands as reliable reporters of the body's inner state, quick to tighten in stress, quick to soften in safety. As the fingers open, the wrists, forearms, and shoulders often begin their own quiet release. Tonight, the hands have carried much. They can lie softly now, heavy and warm, like two small candles placed gently at rest. Two small lights, resting side by side, warm, unhurried, asking nothing more of the night. The nervous system is always reading the room for safety. Quietly, without being asked, polyvagal researchers describe a continuous background process called neuroception, the body's unconscious way of checking its surroundings for signs of threat or calm. This scan happens beneath awareness. Tuned into small details, the mind rarely notices the quality of a voice, the warmth of the air, the softness of the light, the familiarity of a bed. When neuroception registers safety, the body quietly allows itself to settle. Nothing dramatic announces this. It simply happens gently, moment by moment, without effort on anyone's part. A quiet watchman under the stars, checking the doors softly, so the sleeper doesn't have to. This reading happens below thought, in a quiet layer beneath awareness. Researchers note that neuroception operates faster than deliberate perception. Often within fractions of a second, the body evaluates signals long before the conscious mind has a chance to weigh in. This is why a calming environment can feel safe, even when you haven't named why. A soft voice, a familiar scent, a dim, steady light, each contributes to the body's silent verdict. Most of the time, you do not decide to feel safe. The body decides first and lets the mind catch up. Like stars arriving, before you notice the sky has darkened, safety is there, already settling. A familiar voice in the dark can register as safety, even before the words land. Studies of voice and autonomic response find that the prosody of a gentle voice, its slow rhythm, low pitch, soft edges, can calm the heart rate within seconds. Researchers describe this as part of the social engagement system, a collection of nerve pathways tuned to the voices of others. The content of the words matters less than the shape of them. A kind tone arriving in the ear often settles the body before a single meaning has been decoded. Like the hush between twilight and night, something gentle passing overhead, asking nothing. Warmth, stillness, and soft light all whisper the same thing: you can rest. Environmental researchers who study sleep onset describe a cluster of cues that consistently ease the body into rest: ambient warmth, low illumination, quiet surroundings, and minimal unpredictability. These cues overlap with what polyvagal theory calls signals of safety. The body interprets them together, not individually, building a gentle sense that the night is held. Nothing in the room has to be perfect. A few soft cues, stacked quietly, are usually enough to begin the descent towards sleep. A sky holding its stars without effort enough, by itself, to feel like a soft kind of shelter. When the body feels safe, the mind permits itself to drift. Neuroscientists describe a close coupling between autonomic state and cognitive state. When the body registers calm, regions of the brain associated with vigilance quiet down, and the mind's default wandering soft, untethered, image-rich is allowed to surface. This drifting is not a loss of control. It is the early shape of sleep, arriving at its own pace. Researchers note that mental drift often begins before the person realizes it is happening. Simply because the body has decided it is time, thoughts becoming clouds, moving slowly, without destination, beneath a patient sky. Polyvagal theory describes safety as something the body feels, not something it thinks. Stephen Porch, who developed polyvagal theory, suggests that feeling safe is primarily a physiological state, not a cognitive conclusion. The body registers safety through a constellation of internal and external cues: steady heartbeat, relaxed breath, gentle voice, warm surroundings. Thinking one is safe is not the same as feeling safe. This is why reassurance alone rarely calms a tense body, but a soft voice, a warm blanket, a long exhale. These speak the body's own language directly. A cloud heavy with unshed rain held softly by the sky, without needing to explain itself. The forehead smoothing now, as if brushed by quiet night air. Somatic awareness research finds that the forehead and the small muscles around the brow hold expression more than most people realize. A soft forehead is one of the body's quiet indicators of rest. When the muscles between the eyebrows release, a subtle shift often spreads downward through the eyes, the jaw, the neck, as if a whole row of small locks had opened together. Nothing has to be tried, only noticed gently, if at all. And the forehead, open and still, lets the night air pass like a window left softly ajar. Tonight, every small cue of safety is another small permission to rest. Sleep and autonomic researchers describe safety cues as additive. No single one is decisive. But together, they compose the mood of the night, the weight of the blanket, the darkness of the room, the familiarity of the pillow, the voice in the ear. Each adds a quiet note to the same soft chord. The body hears this chord and gradually loosens its watchfulness. You do not have to gather the cues. You only have to rest among them. Dawn is waiting, quietly, beyond the dark and the night. For now, belongs to you. The ache of missing someone is not imagined, it is measured. Social neuroscientists, studying the brain's response to loss and disconnection, have mapped patterns of activity that closely resemble those seen during physical pain. Regions like the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex and the anterior insula light up in response to rejection, grief, and longing. Researchers describe these findings not as metaphor but as physiology. When the chest aches at night, the body is doing exactly what it was built to do, noticing that something important is missing. A stone resting quietly at the ocean floor, heavy, but held by something larger than itself. Brain scans show that social pain and physical pain share similar pathways. In landmark studies using functional imaging, researchers found that being left out, losing contact with someone dear, or recalling a moment of disconnection activates pain-related brain circuits in ways strikingly similar to physical injury. Naomi Eisenberger and colleagues describe this as evidence that social belonging is pounding is pound. For humans, a deeply embodied need, the overlap is not accidental. It seems to be an ancient safeguard, a way the body kept loved ones close. Heavy clouds, dissolving into mist, over water slowly, over hours, without anyone hurrying them. The body does not pretend. If it hurts, that hurt is real. This simple idea is quietly affirmed by decades of pain research. The brain does not distinguish sharply between a bruised knee and a missed call from someone loved. Both are registered in circuits that say, in effect, something here matters. Researchers note that validating this overlap tends to reduce self-judgment. When the body aches at night, the most honest response is not to argue with it, but to acknowledge it. The ache is not a mistake. It is a signal of attachment, a tide pulling back, carrying weight with it, honest, unquiet, and utterly natural. Ere long, quiet breath, here if one arrives on its own. This shared pathway may have evolved to keep loved ones close. Evolutionary psychologists propose that social pain borrows the same neural circuitry as physical pain because, for most of human history, separation from one's group was genuinely serious. The ache of missing someone, in this view, is a very old way the body keeps us oriented toward connection. It is not a flaw in design. It is the deep memory of belonging, written into the nervous system, passed down through thousands of generations of being together. A boat lowering its anchor in a still harbor because somewhere, something was worth staying for. Eyelids growing pleasantly heavy, like soft stones resting in warm water. Sleep researchers describe eyelid heaviness as one of the most reliable early signs of sleep onset. As the body begins to release its hold on the day, the small muscles supporting the lids relax, and a gentle weight settles across them. This is not a decision. It is an arrival. Studies of drowsy states find that this heaviness often appears just before conscious awareness begins to soften into drift. Nothing needs to be done. The eyes already know how to close. And the eyelids, heavy and warm, sink into the sea of sleep, one small breath at a time. Missing someone is, in a way, a leftover of love. Attachment researchers describe the ache of absence as inseparable from the bond that preceded it. The depth of missing is proportional to the depth of caring, a kind of quiet proof that love was real. Studies suggest that this ache, though it feels like absence, is better understood as presence rearranged. What was once beside you is now inside you, held in the body's memory. The weight at night is the other side of the warmth that once was. A river slowing before a gentle bend, still carrying what it loved upstream. Feeling the ache is not weakness, it is an ancient kindness expressed by the body. Researchers in affective neuroscience increasingly describe emotional pain as a form of care the body performs for itself and for its relationships. The ache signals where attention is needed. It marks what was precious. Seen this way, the weight of the heart is not a symptom to be rid of, but a quiet testimony. To feel it, tonight, is not to fail. It is to remain open to the people and things that mattered, which is, in itself, a tender act. A stone beneath still water, heavy and held and undisturbed by the kindness above it. The ache does not ask to be fixed. It asks only to be acknowledged. Studies of emotion-focused approaches find that allowing a feeling to be present, without attempting to solve it, often softens its intensity. Researchers describe this as a paradox of emotional processing. What is pushed away tends to linger, while what is allowed tends to move. The heart, it seems, is waiting for presence rather than rescue. The ache does not need a solution. It needs only a quiet witness, which is already here. A heavy cloud over still water beginning, quietly, to release its gentle rain. Emotional tears are different, biochemically, from the tears that protect the eye. Research on the neurobiology of crying describes at least 3 distinct types of tears: basal, reflex, and emotional, each with a somewhat different composition. Emotional tears, in particular, appear to contain higher concentrations of certain stress-related compounds, suggesting that crying may physically release something the body has been carrying. Scientists studying this describe emotional tears as a kind of quiet, biological housekeeping, a way the body lightens itself, without anyone having to understand exactly how. A single candle in a wide, still room shedding something warm, simply because it can. They seem to be a gentle reset, a way the body lightens itself. Studies observing people before, during, and after crying often report a pattern: initial arousal, followed by parasympathetic activation, followed by a softer, calmer state. Researchers describe this arc as a kind of built-in recovery process. Tears appear to help shift the nervous system from alertness toward rest. Many people notice this naturally, a quiet tiredness that follows crying, almost like the body has completed a small piece of quiet work. Nothing complicated is required. Embers glowing low and patient, warmer now than the flame that came before. The belly loosening now, rising and falling with each slow breath. Diaphragmatic breathing research describes the belly as the body's quiet second bellows, soft, steady, often overlooked. When it is allowed to move freely, the breath grows deeper and slower, and the vagus nerve responds with a gentle shift toward calm. Most people carry light tension in the belly throughout the day without noticing. Releasing it, even slightly, tends to ease the whole system. Nothing has to be forced. The belly has its own rhythm, waiting to return. And the belly, rising and falling, a soft lamp in the lowlands of the body, warm and unhurried. After crying, the nervous system often drifts into a softer state. Researchers measuring heart rate and autonomic balance before and after emotional tears consistently describe a pattern of post-crying calm. The body seems to settle, breath slowing, muscles easing, attention loosening. Some studies even suggest that this state can resemble the early edges of sleep. Nothing about this has to be arranged. If tears arrive, the body's next step is often a kind of hush, already arranged long ago by the quiet wisdom of physiology. Light softening behind drawn curtains the room. Afterward, gentler than it was before. Tears are linked to the vagus nerve, which is linked to rest. The lacrimal glands, which produce emotional tears, share autonomic connections with structures governed by the parasympathetic branch, including the vagus nerve. This means that weeping and calming are, physiologically, close neighbors. Researchers describe this connection as one of the reasons tears can bring unexpected peace. the same nerve that slows the heart, also supports the release of tears, linking sorrow and stillness along a single quiet thread of nervous system anatomy. The gentle warmth of a kept hand, holding sorrow and calm together, without needing to separate them. Crying is not a failure of composure, it is the heart's quiet self-care. A growing body of research treats crying as a legitimate, adaptive form of emotional regulation rather than a loss of control. Studies find that crying can help release tension, communicate need, and invite comfort from others. Far from being a weakness, it is one of the body's oldest ways of saying this matters, and I am caring for it. Cultural messages that frame tears as shameful are not supported by the physiology, which treats crying as a tender form of inner repair. A lamp lit for someone still on the way, quietly holding space, simply because it is night. Even quiet tears, unshed, can soften the body's grip. Research on suppressed emotion suggests that fully suppressed tears exert a different effect than allowed tears, often leaving tension in the chest, throat, oryaf. But even the almost tears, the ones that rise without falling, seem to bring some of the body's quieter responses with them. Studies note that softening near the eyes and throat, even without actual crying, can signal to the nervous system that release is in progress. Nothing has to be performed. Presence is enough. Light that never quite becomes a candle, still warmer than the dark around it. Tonight, if tears come, they are welcome and they are enough. Emotion-focused research consistently describes welcome tears as moving more easily than refused ones. When the body meets its own emotions with permission, the whole process tends to take less time and often leaves less residue behind. There is no requirement to cry. There is also no requirement not to brief. Whatever arrives tonight, tears, or the almost shape of them, or simply quiet, is met with the same gentle welcome. The bed is patient. The night is patient. A candle in a wide, still room, lit or unlit, the room is already warm enough to hold you. Feet warming now, toes uncurling one by one, like a tide returning. Circulation researchers describe a gentle warming of the feet as one of the reliable physiological signs of approaching sleep. As the core cools, blood flows outward, warming the extremities, hands, fingers, feet, toes. Studies on distal skin temperature even use this as a soft marker for sleep readiness. The body begins its nightly ritual long before the mind knows it. You only have to let it happen, quietly, without trying to hurry or slow its pace. The toes uncurling, one at a time, like waves arriving softly on a long familiar shore. The breath knows the way home, it has made the trip before. Respiratory researchers describe breathing as one of the few body systems that is both automatic and intentional. It continues without attention, and it can also be gently invited to slow. Studies find that a long, soft exhale stimulates vagal fibers in the lungs and heart, easing the whole system toward rest. This is not technique. It is biology offering its own quiet hand. The breath has walked this path countless times before, and it knows, without instruction, where to go. A boat drifting back toward the familiar harbor, no map needed, only the tide beneath it. A slow exhale is a signal the body translates as safety. In studies of heart rate variability, researchers consistently find that exhalation lasting longer than inhalation activates the parasympathetic nervous system more strongly. This is why sighs, slow breaths, and long release breaths tend to settle the chest. The body reads the rhythm, not the effort, and responds accordingly. Even a single longer exhale can begin this soft signaling. No special count is required, just letting the breath out a little longer than it came in. The long evening exhale of a calm sea reaching the shore without hurry. Breathing and grief are quietly related. Both are tidal rhythms. Psychologists who study grief describe its course as wave-like rather than linear. Intense, moments arrivent. Crest, and the recede, often without clear reasons. This pattern mirrors the breath itself, coming and going in a rhythm that cannot be held still. Researchers suggest that breathing with a heavy heart, rather than against it, allows both to find a natural cadence. Nothing needs to be steadied. The tide does its work on its own timing. Salt water rising and falling, the ocean teaching the lungs how to stay soft. There is nothing to control here, only something to notice. Quietly, mindfulness research finds that noticing the breath, without trying to change it, often produces more calming than deliberate breathing exercises in certain contexts. The act of attending to something without directing it sends a soft signal of safety through the nervous system. Tonight, the breath is already moving. It will continue to move, whether observed or not. Simply noticing its gentle presence is enough for the body to feel accompanied by its own quiet company. A lantern on still water, not steering the boat, only lighting what is already there. The pause between breaths is where the body often settles. Respiratory researchers describe the brief stillness at the end of exhalation, the small natural pause before the next inhale, as a moment when the body rests at its softest point. Parasympathetic activity tends to peak here. In some contemplative traditions, this pause is described as the quiet room between breaths. In physiological terms, it is simply where the nervous system takes its tiniest rest. Over and over, thousands of times a night, without asking anything. The sea, between waves still and gathered, before softly returning, fingers loosening now, uncurling one gentle joint at a time. Somatic research describes the hands as one of the body's quiet tension reservoirs, often holding alertness long after the rest of the body has begun to soften. When the fingers uncurl, a subtle wave of release sometimes moves upward through the wrists, the forearms, the shoulders. This release does not need to be produced. Once the hands are allowed to rest heavy, the rest of the arm often follows, finding its own quiet place against the bedding. Fingers like small tides withdrawing, leaving warmth in the spaces they had been holding. Breath, tonight, is a companion, not a task to be performed. Therapists who work with grief and sleep often describe the breath as a steady companion that is always available and never requires explanation. Whatever the emotional weather, the breath continues, not as a fix, but as a presence. Research on contemplative practice suggests that being accompanied in this quiet way, even by one's own breath, we can soften loneliness and ease the edges of difficult feeling. It is a small kindness, always nearby. A soft tide keeping the shore company through the long and quiet night. Interoception is the body's quiet sense of its own inner weather. Neuroscientists describe interoception as the capacity to feel the body from within the subtle awareness of heartbeat. Breath, belly, warmth. Researchers studying this inner sense find that practicing gentle attention to these signals tends to calm the autonomic system. It is not about listening harder. It is about letting the body's soft signals arrive on their own. The inner landscape is always there, quietly narrating itself in a language older than words. A garden's own listening, knowing the weather by the way the leaves hold still. The body is always sending updates, though most of them pass quietly under notice. Studies of interoceptive awareness describe a constant flow of signals from the heart to the gut, the muscles, the breath that ordinarily operate below conscious attention. When attention gently turns toward these signals, a softer self-perception often emerges. Researchers link this shift to greater emotional regulation and improved sleep. Nothing needs to be understood. Just noticing that the body is present and speaking is a kind of quiet acknowledgement the system appreciates. A garden whispering its small news, the bud unfurling, the dew settling, all without announcement. Listening to the body is different from analyzing it. Research on mindful body awareness distinguishes two modes, evaluative and receptive. Evaluative attention judges and categorizes. Receptive attention simply rests alongside what is present. Studies find that receptive attention tends to lower cortisol and support sleep, while evaluative attention can inadvertently increase tension. Tonight, the body can be listened to rather than interrogated. Whatever is felt, the weight, the warmth, the ache, the softening, is simply what is here, deserving of gentle company. A gardener kneeling beside the soil, listening, not correcting, just present. The vagus nerve carries much of this listening, silently, every moment. Anatomists describe the vagus nerve as containing about 80% sensory fibers, meaning most of its traffic runs from the body upward to the brain, not the other way around. This makes it one of the body's main listening instruments. It quietly reports from the heart, the lungs, the gut, the throat, translating inner state into felt awareness. Even during rest, this listening continues, patient, attentive, unseen, and deeply gentle. Roots beneath the garden, moving slowly in the dark, carrying news the surface never has to hear. A body that is listened to tends to settle more easily. Researchers studying body-based approaches describe a consistent finding when people receive gentle attention to their bodily state. Muscles soften, breath deepens, and the nervous system shifts toward calm. Some suggest this happens because the body has evolved to respond to being attended to as a sign that it is being cared for. Even self-directed attention can produce this effect. The body seems to know the difference between being ignored and being listened to. A plant in a window, turning gently toward the light, simply because the light is there. The small muscles around the eyebrows softening now, as if unclenching. Somatic researchers note that the corrugator muscles between the brows often hold subtle tension, carried from the day, the small work of concentrating, of listening, of worrying. Releasing these tiny muscles is frequently associated with a drop in autonomic arousal. When they soften, the space across the face opens, the forehead goes still, the eyelids grow heavier. All of this happens in fractions of a millimeter, yet it is felt in the whole body. Petals opening slightly as evening cools, no effort, just the garden settling into itself. The body holds grief in its soft places, and the soft places know how to rest. Studies of body-held emotion describe certain regions: the chest, throat, belly, eyes as common sites where grief accumulates and lingers. These same regions, researchers note, are also among the body's most responsive to breath, warmth, and gentle attention. In other words, the places that carry weight are also the places most capable of release. Tonight, these regions do not need to be worked, only invited to rest. A soft bed of moss after rain holding what fell, while drying quietly in the green. Whatever the body is feeling tonight, that feeling has a right to be here. Researchers in emotion-focused work consistently find that allowing a feeling to exist without urgency to change it tends to soften it. The body appears to respond to permission more reliably than to pressure, grief, sadness, a quiet heaviness. All of these, when welcomed, often lose some of their grip. Tonight's task is not to feel better. It is to feel softly whatever is present, and to let it share the bed. A garden keeping its weeds and flowers together because both grew from the same patient earth. Self-compassion changes the body, not just the mind. Researchers studying self-compassion report measurable effects on heart rate variability, cortisol levels, and sleep quality, offering oneself the same warmth one might offer a close friend in moments of difficulty appears to activate parts of the parasympathetic system associated with care and soothing. This is not sentiment. It is physiology. The body appears to know the difference between being spoken to harshly and being spoken to kindly, even when both voices come from the same person. A lamp held inside the chest, warming the walls simply by being lit. The words we say to ourselves become weather inside the body. Studies of self-talk find that the tone of inner language can shift autonomic state within minutes. Harsh self-talk tends to raise arousal. Warm self-talk tends to lower it. Researchers describe the inner voice as a form of self-relationship, one the nervous system listens to as attentively as it listens to voices from outside. A kind inner voice. Tonight is not cosmetic. It is a gentle, physiological signal, available to anyone. Words glowing like small candles in the hollow of a room, warming from within. Speaking kindly to yourself is not indulgence. It is a form of quiet nervous system care. Compassion researchers have documented that self-kindness practices often produce effects similar to those of being comforted by another person. Lower stress markers, softer mood, improved sleep onset. The idea that one must be hard on oneself to function is not supported by this physiology. In fact, kindness appears to regulate the nervous system more effectively than criticism. Across nearly every outcome measured, a candle held steady through a quiet night, not flashy, just faithfully warm through the dark hours. The chest widening slightly, as if space were being made for breath. Body-centered researchers describe the chest as a primary holding area for emotional weight, a place where grief, tension, and care all leave traces. When the chest is invited to soften, even slightly, the breath naturally deepens, the shoulders settle, and the throat eases. Nothing has to be forced. The body's front side, which has faced outward all day, simply gets to be still now, held gently by the bed beneath it. a lantern in the center of the chest growing quietly wider as the room fills with warm light. Imagine speaking to yourself the way you would to a tired child. Clinicians who teach self-compassion practice often use this image because the body responds to it reliably. A voice that is patient, warm, and unhurried signals safety to the same nervous system circuits that respond to warm voices from others. Tonight, a silent sentence. You can rest now. It's okay often does more for sleep than any thought of what went wrong today. The body hears the tone long before it passes the words. Soft light held near a sleeping face, the room lowering its voice in return. A kind inner voice tonight can help the body begin its long, soft descent. Researchers on self-talk and sleep find that gentle pre-sleep phrases brief, warm, permissive are associated with faster sleep onset and fewer awakenings. The content matters less than the tone. Phrases as simple as "I can rest" or "it's okay" tonight appear to shift the nervous system toward parasympathetic dominance. There is nothing to prove with these words. They are just small kindnesses offered to the self. In the dark, a candle passed from one quiet hand to another, the self, keeping vigil over the self. Softly, tonight, you are allowed to be the one who comforts you. Attachment researchers describe internal self-soothing as a capacity that develops alongside being soothed by others, and often deepens over the course of a lifetime. This means the body is already equipped to be its own soft companion. Nothing special is needed, just a few simple gestures of turning toward, rather than away from, what is felt. A hand on the chest, a whispered phrase, a gentle acknowledgement. The bed, the pillow, the dark, all hold this with you. A candle lit at the bedside, waiting, without question, for the body to settle. Kindness to the body is never wasted breath. Researchers across cardiology, psychology, and sleep science converge on a quiet conclusion: warmth directed inward produces measurable physiological gains. Self-kindness seems to smooth heart rhythm, ease breathing, and soften muscle tone. Even a single self-compassionate moment at bedtime appears to slightly improve the next day's mood. No formula is required. Any small gesture of inner gentleness, offered honestly, is received fully. The body, grateful for any permission to rest, takes what is given. A lamp left burning for a weary traveler simply because they are on their way home. A gentle voice in the dark does something 1,000 thoughts cannot do. Porges and others describe the human nervous system as deeply tuned to vocal quality. Allo? Unhurried. Melodic voice activates the ventral vagal pathway, one of the body's primary channels for social calming. This is partly why reading aloud to children helps them sleep, and why listening to a calm voice can ease an adult's night as well. The content is secondary. The tone reaches the body along an ancient and trusted path. A quiet shoreline voice, not waves breaking, but water returning, gently, to the sand it knows. The arms growing heavy now, settling into the softness of the bedding. Somatic researchers describe the arms as one of the body's reliable indicators of parasympathetic engagement. When they grow heavy, it usually means the shoulders, chest, and back have begun to release in concert. This heaviness is not tiredness as failure, it is the body's soft permission to let go. The bed, patient and attentive, holds the arms without any condition. Nothing needs to be done with them. Their only task tonight is to rest. Arms like boats coming to rest at dock, their journey for the day now softly completed. Soft voices seem to slow time, even when they change nothing else. Studies on perception and attention find that gentle, low-register voices tend to stretch subjective time, creating a sense of spaciousness. Listeners often describe feeling that minutes have grown longer, that the rush of the day has eased. Researchers attribute this partly to the way calm voices lower physiological arousal, which in turn softens time perception. Nothing here is mystical. It is simply the body finding permission to move at a more unhurried pace. The tide's own tempo slower than any clock, and somehow more accurate. Whispered words are felt as well as heard. Researchers studying auditory perception describe whispered speech as low in frequency and rich in breath sounds, engaging body-oriented parts of hearing more than thought-heavy ones. This is partly why whispered voices often feel physically soothing, producing what some listeners describe as a gentle tingling or warmth. The body seems to respond to whisper as a form of closeness, even in the absence of any other cue. Presence, in this way, is communicated through breath as much as word. Water running quietly over smooth stones, barely a sound, and yet the stones feel it. A voice with unhurried rhythm invites the body to move at the same pace. Entrainment research describes the tendency of physiological rhythms: breath, heart, brainwaves to gently synchronize with rhythmic sounds in the environment. A slow, steady voice appears to pull the body toward its own tempo. This is why calm narration can ease the nervous system, even when its content is unfamiliar. The body follows the cadence first and considers the meaning much later, if at all, when it suits. A quiet bay receiving long, unhurried swells, finding its own stillness in the regularity of arrival. Voices that ask nothing are often the ones most easily heard. Linguistic researchers distinguish between speech that requests a response and speech that simply offers presence. The first activates alertness, the second permits rest. Sleep-oriented narration, by design, avoids calls for attention or decision. This absence of demand, studies suggest, is part of what makes such voices effective companions for sleep. The body asked for nothing. It feels free to let go to arrive at rest without first having to earn it. A shoreline without invitation, just the endless company of waves, asking nothing in return. A calm voice is, in effect, a portable regulation tool. Clinicians who study trauma-informed voice work describe calm vocal tone as a reliable source of nervous system support, because the body responds to tone more than content. Even a familiar recording can shift physiological state. Listeners often report lower heart rate, deeper breathing, and faster sleep onset when accompanied by such voices. Tonight, whatever voice is in the ear, recorded, remembered, or imagined functions as a small and steady anchor for the body, an anchor dropped in a familiar harbor, the voice holding the boat without gripping it. The legs sinking now, heavy and warm beneath the covers. Sleep researchers describe a gradual heaviness in the legs as a common sign of approaching deeper rest. Muscle tone in the lower body decreases. blood circulation slows, and the legs begin to feel as though they belong more to the bed than to the day. Nothing needs to be arranged. The legs are doing what they have always known how to do, gently surrendering to the end of motion. For now, 2 long stones settling at the bottom of a quiet pool, heavy, at rest, no longer in the current. Tonight, any soft voice outside or within can be a companion for rest. Whether the voice is audible or imagined, researchers note that internal rehearsal of a warm vocal tone can produce many of the same physiological effects as an external voice. This means the body can comfort itself using the sound of a remembered voice, a beloved line of poetry, or simply an inner phrase offered kindly. The nervous system does not demand novelty. It only asks for warmth, steadily given. Across the long arc of the night, a voice on the wind, remembered or imagined, still enough. Tonight, to settle the waters inside. Grief and time are close companions, neither moves in straight lines. Researchers who study bereavement consistently describe grief's course as non-linear. Waves of intensity rise and recede. Often, without external triggers, the heart can feel heavier on a Tuesday than it did on the anniversary it had been bracing for. O'Connor and others frame this not as irregularity but as the ordinary shape of love adjusting to absence. Time does not soften in a predictable rhythm. It holds and carries and settles in its own patient way. Stars, not hurrying across the sky, simply present, constant, in their slow arrangement. What felt sharp in early days often softens into something quieter over months. Longitudinal studies of grief describe a gradual shift from acute weight to a more background presence, often over a period of many months or years. This softening is not erasure. It is a different kind of presence, less sharp, more woven into daily life. Researchers note that this gentle reshaping tends to happen on its own timeline, resistant to deliberate acceleration. The body seems to know how to carry what cannot be rushed. Given enough kindness and enough time, the sky passing slowly from deep violet to softer indigo, no moment of change. Only change. A heavy heart at night can feel ancient, and it often is. Clinicians describe how grief and longing, even for recent losses, often arrive at bedtime feeling layered, echoing older separations, childhood partings, small losses, never fully named. This is not the mind inventing difficulty. It is the body remembering the long history of attachment. Researchers frame this layered quality as evidence that tonight's wait is not one event, but a whole lifetime of caring, gently asking for acknowledgement under the quiet cover of night. Light from a distant star, arriving tonight, traveled far, still luminous, still here. The body carries time differently than the mind does. Neuroscientists note that the body's sense of time is partly shaped by rhythm, heartbeat, breath, circadian cycles, rather than by calendar. This is why emotional weight can surface on certain evenings, certain seasons, certain qualities of light. The body remembers through pattern as much as through story. Tonight's heaviness may be tied to something very old, or simply to the particular stillness of this hour. Either is honored. The moon arriving at its familiar place in the sky, faithful, silent, known by the body without a clock. the jaw unclenching quietly now, a subtle release spreading through the face. Somatic researchers describe the jaw as a common site of held tension, often carrying the day's small vigilances, the readiness to speak, to respond, to hold composure. When the jaw releases, a soft wave tends to move through the cheeks, the temples, the throat. Studies note that a relaxed jaw is one of the more reliable markers of genuine rest. Nothing must be done. The jaw, recognized, will begin its own quiet loosening. Stars becoming visible as the sky darkens, nothing forced, only allowed to appear. Tonight, time is not against you. It is simply carrying you. Philosophers of grief echo what neuroscience quietly suggests, that time is not a force that must be pushed through, but a medium that already holds us. The heart, heavy or light, is moving through the night either way. Researchers describe this passage as something that asks for patience, not strategy. Nothing about the heart's schedule can be rushed, but each slow hour, given its full due, is another hour of being softly accompanied. A sky at midnight wide enough to hold every hour of the night at once. Sleep itself is part of how the body settles the emotional weather of a day. Emotional memory research suggests that sleep, particularly REM sleep, plays a role in softening the sharp edges of difficult feelings. Studies find that well-rested nights are associated with less reactive, emotional recall the next day. This does not mean sleep erases anything. It seems rather to rearrange, placing today's weight into the long, gentle archive of the life that carries it, where it can be held gently. The night sky carrying yesterday's light quietly forward without losing a single distant fire. Every night, the body does a small, quiet work on the heart. Researchers describe sleep as a state of active processing, not passive rest. During sleep, the brain consolidates memory, softens emotional edges, and repairs tissue. For a heavy heart, this means the night itself is participating in a gentle, ongoing settling. Nothing has to be forced into happening. The body, asleep, continues its slow work sorting, softening, settling, even while everything else has paused. Constellations shifting imperceptibly through the hours unseen, but faithful in their quiet turn. Tonight will pass, as every night does, carrying something gently forward. Longitudinal research on settling with loss finds that nights of rest, even imperfect ones, contribute cumulatively to the slow work of carrying grief. Each night adds a small increment. Nothing dramatic needs to happen in any single one. The value is in the quiet repetition, the body, again and again, allowed to rest, allowed to be held by sleep. Even when the day behind was heavy and the day ahead is uncertain. The slow turning of a long night moving, always, toward the first pale edges of dawn. Sleep is not an absence, it is a different kind of presence. Sleep scientists describe sleep as an active Wunderkreuz, highly organized state, not a simple switching off. The brain cycles through distinct stages, each with its own purpose. Deep, slow-wave sleep for physical restoration. REM for emotional settling. Lighter stages for transitions. Across the night, this choreography unfolds without any need for input. The body, once permitted to sleep, directs itself through its own quiet nightly composition. A room not empty, only quiet, warm light filling what seems, at first, like silence. The shoulders dropping now, falling slowly away from the ears. Somatic researchers describe the shoulders as a frequent holding place for the day's small braces, the micro-liftings that accumulate through work, waiting, and watchfulness. As sleep approaches, the trapezius and neck muscles tend to release in gentle waves, lowering the shoulders toward their natural resting position. This movement often brings with it a softer breath. Nothing has to be arranged. The shoulders know the direction of rest. A candle melting slowly into itself, no resistance. Just the warm surrender of its own weight. REM sleep is where the heart quietly does some of its most tender work. Neuroscientists studying emotional memory, including work by Matthew Walker and colleagues, describe REM sleep as a phase when the brain revisits emotionally salient experiences with reduced arousal. Studies suggest this process can soften the intensity of difficult memories without altering the memories themselves. Some researchers call this overnight settling. The heart, during REM, is not forgetting, it is being given space to carry what it carries. With gentler hands than the waking day can offer. A candle left burning, while the house sleeps, attending softly to what is still being tended. Dreams, at times, are the body's way of holding what could not be said. Researchers on dream content and emotional processing find that dreams often rework the themes of waking life in image and metaphor. For grieving hearts, dreams can sometimes offer quiet encounters, symbolic returns, unspoken resolutions. These are not always remembered, and they do not need to be. Whatever the mind moves through at night, asleep, tends to be part of the larger process of settling a silent language the waking self rarely has to translate. Soft shadows cast by lamplight pictures made of nothing, and yet somehow telling. Sleep smooths mood as quietly and reliably as the tides shape a shoreline. Studies across psychology and neuroscience find that adequate sleep is associated with more stable mood, softer emotional reactivity, and greater resilience in the face of difficult experiences. These effects accumulate gently, night by night. No single night of sleep will resolve a heavy heart, but over time, the body's nightly rest becomes a kind of emotional scaffolding, quiet, unseen, steadily holding the shape of the life it supports. A lantern kept lit through a long season, not brighter, not dimmer, just faithfully there each night. A single good night of rest is its own small, quiet offering. Sleep researchers emphasize the cumulative nature of rest, yet also note that individual nights matter. A single night of deep sleep can soften the next day's mood, clarity, and emotional capacity. For a heavy heart, this means tonight, by itself, is worth receiving, whatever tomorrow holds. The gift of this particular night, whatever depth of sleep arrives, is a real and tender contribution to the long work of carrying and being carried. One candle, lit for one night, not solving the dark, only softening it, just enough. The whole body, now held by the bed, held by the dark, held by this hour. Somatic and interoceptive research describe full body relaxation as a layered experience, building gradually from small releases throughout the day's end. By this point in the night, many of the body's regions have already begun to soften: the jaw, the chest, the belly, the arms, the legs. The whole body, taken together, rests like a landscape settling into evening. Nothing remains that must be done. A whole room warmed by a single, steady flame, every corner quietly included. Nothing left outside. Sleep, tonight, is an act of trust. The body already knows how to perform. Evolutionary researchers describe sleep as one of the oldest acts of trust in the animal world, the willingness to close the eyes in a dark place and let the body go. For humans, this trust is supported by every small cue of safety assembled across the day. Tonight, those cues are enough. The body, wise and omniscient, is prepared to let go. It has done this countless times before, and each time, the morning has come. A candle carried gently through a familiar hall because the path is known by heart. A heavy heart, tonight, is still allowed to sleep. Sleep science, attachment research, and compassion studies all converge on a quiet invitation that rest is not earned by emotional resolution. The heart does not have to be light in order to be welcome in sleep. Heavy hearts sleep, and in sleeping, are cared for by all the slow processes the body runs on behalf of itself. Tonight, the weight is here, and so is the bed, and so is the quiet, and so is the long, soft night. A candle lowering itself gently into warm wax, offering the room one last soft breath of light. Tonight, the body has been listened to. Nothing had to be fixed, only acknowledged, softly, by the slow rhythm of this night. The heart is still as it is, perhaps heavier than it was yesterday, perhaps gentler, perhaps simply quiet. In the way a room becomes quiet when the evening has fully arrived. Whatever it holds with a kind of ancient patience, the same patience the body has carried across every parting. Every long night before this one, there is nothing more to understand now. The forehead is soft, the jaw has unclenched, the shoulders have fallen, the arms rest heavy. The fingers are uncurled. The belly rises and falls. The legs sink into the warmth beneath them. The whole body, without having been asked, has found its way to something like rest. Beyond the body, the night is wide. Somewhere, tides are moving. Somewhere, gardens are settling into the cool hours. Somewhere, candles are being left to burn a little longer in quiet rooms. Somewhere, stars are keeping their slow, unhurried places in the sky. None of this requires attention. All of it, quietly, continues. Tonight, the heart does not have to be light in order to be cared for. It does not have to be settled in order to sleep. It does not have to be anything other than what it is: a heart that has lived a life and is carrying that life kindly. Even in the weight of this hour, whatever arrives as sleep full and deep, or soft and shallow, or somewhere between is welcome. Whatever stays awake a while longer is also welcome. The body will find its way. It has always found its way. Breath, still coming, still going, like a tide, like a garden breathing, like a candle warming the last quiet corner of a room. Rest now, if you'd like to. Drift, if drifting comes. Stay, If staying is what arrives, the night is yours. The morning will come. There is nothing more to do. May the night hold you the way. Good earth holds a tired seed without question, without hurry. May any weight you carry find a place to lay itself down beside you. Cared for, not gone. May the small corners of the body grow warm, onebuwan, and stay warm through the long arc of the hours. And if the heart is still heavy, may it be heavy gently, the way a full river is heavy. Not the way a locked door is heavy. May it rest and wake softer than it fell asleep. Sleep, if it is time, and if it is not yet time, rest anyway softly, gently, and enough